What's going on, Orange Nation? This is Neil Adler with your latest episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Happy Friday. We got through the week, and it's game day tomorrow. Let's go. All right, let me know what you're thinking. I'm going to give you my score prediction here. Number 24, Tennessee, Syracuse football, week 1, Saturday at noon in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What do you think the score is going to be? So I've been thinking about this a lot, and you know, I I'm a self-professed alum. I'm a homer, all that stuff. But I also have been covering Syracuse for various outlets for over a decade, and I try and be as objective as I can while fully acknowledging that I'm still a Syracuse fanatic when it comes to SU sports. I'm like going back and forth on this game. And I know it's a 13 and a half or 14-point spread, and I know it's going to be more of a home game for Tennessee than Syracuse, and Tennessee is in the SEC, Syracuse is not. Tennessee made the playoff last year. Both teams were 10-3, but Tennessee plays a harder schedule. They're preseason ranked, Syracuse is not. So, all that factored in. I've been saying it for a while. I think Syracuse is going to keep it closer than 14 points. I think Syracuse needs to hold its own in the trenches, both on its offensive line, not giving up a ton of sacks for Steve Angeli's first career start at quarterback on the Hill, and then their defensive line trying to get pressure on Tennessee's larger, stronger, presumably stronger offensive line and Tennessee's run game. So I keep going back and forth. I really think Syracuse can win this game. I do. But if I have to pick, and I'm trying to just be somewhat objective here, I'm going to pick Tennessee. But it won't surprise me, it won't surprise me if Syracuse covers. It won't surprise me if Syracuse wins. And if they hold their own on both sides of the line, and Angeli is solid, and Syracuse wins the turnover battle, and other factors that I've been talking about on Syracuse Central earlier this week. I think Syracuse can win this game. And there's obviously more pressure on Tennessee, given that they're the favorite, a massive favorite. It's more of a home game for them. They're in, Knoxville's closer to Atlanta, and they're supposed to win. But I'm still going to pick, again, I'm picking a team here. I have to pick someone. So I'm going to pick Tennessee in a close one. So the spread, or the over-under, I think is like 51 or 50 or 51 points, or at least it was last time I looked. I don't know. Tennessee's going to have a really good defense again. Both have new starting quarterbacks. I feel like it's going to be under. So I'm thinking like 27-21. 48 points, that's under. 27-21. Again, I think Syracuse can win this game, and I think it could definitely be within one score, one touchdown, one field goal, what have you. And I hope I'm wrong. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think the score is going to be. Are they going to cover? Are they going to win? Is it going to be over, under, the over, under? Let me know your thoughts. But I seriously hope that I'm wrong. So Fran Brown said this week, towards the end of the week, he said a lot of things. One thing he said, though, on local radio up in Syracuse is that the best, and I'm just quoting directly here, the best way to be able to build a program is to go out and play the best teams in the country. And we've talked about how Fran Brown isn't afraid of anyone, whether it's the top tier teams in the ACC or in the SEC or wherever. He doesn't care. He thinks his team can beat anyone. He thinks his team should beat anyone. And I love that confidence. I don't think he's cocky. I think he's confident. He's got swag for sure. He's got moxie, but he's also got integrity. And and he's also humble, and he's a man of faith, and he praises other teams and their head coaches and their players. He's not, he's just a good dude. I'm glad he's our head coach. But I agree with him here. And especially, in this day and age where it's a 12-team playoff, and I'm not saying Syracuse is going to necessarily contend for the playoff this year, but it's a 12-team playoff. It could expand by even more past this year. And the college football playoff is going to have not different, enhanced selection criteria. So they're going to be looking at who you play, who you beat, who you lose to. So, for instance, Syracuse is thought to have the toughest schedule in the ACC on paper this year, and one of the top 5, 10, 15 toughest schedules in the country, again, on paper. But they won't get dinged as much if they lose to a Tennessee, a ranked team at a neutral site. But then if they go out and lose to Stanford like they did last year at home, they would get dinged for that because Stanford stunk and they beat Syracuse at home. If Syracuse, their other non-conference tough, really, really tough game is at Notre Dame. If they lose that game and it's close, they're not going to get dinged a lot. Their other two non-conference games are home against Colgate and UConn. If they lose at home to Colgate, that's a problem. If they lose at home to UConn, I think they won 9 games last year, but they don't play like the toughest schedule. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't honestly know their full schedule. I should. But I'm just saying UConn is in the same category as Notre Dame or Tennessee. So my point here is that, Fran's talking about building up a program, and to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I like that. I like that they're playing Tennessee. I like that they're going to Notre Dame. In terms of like their ACC slate, their road games are really tough. At SMU, Clemson, and Miami, the presumably top 3 teams in the ACC, at least preseason wise, and then at Georgia Tech, which I think was number 4 in the ACC preseason media poll. But that's going to shift from year to year, based on the ACC scheduling models and all that jazz. But this year it just turns out that their 4 road games are against 4 really good teams in ACC play. And then even at home, Pittsburgh could be solid, North Carolina, Duke. Boston College won 7 games last year, and they beat Syracuse at home up in Massachusetts. So, again, just to get back to this, I like where Fran's coming from. Sure, we don't want to see Syracuse go out on Saturday and get embarrassed by an SEC team. They want to make a statement. They want to win the game, but at the very least, they want to play well and fight hard and have be close on national TV, on ABC. But I sincerely hope that as the years go by, even if Fran Brown's winning a lot, and hopefully he doesn't get poached by a bigger program, but they continue to play tough teams, especially in the non-conference. And one other thing I'll say there is, the other Power 4 leagues are going to a 9-game conference schedule, or have already. I believe the Big 12 and Big 10 already have. The SEC has announced that they are. So is the ACC going to? I would assume they will at some point. So that makes one less opportunity for a non-conference game. But again, you have to win games to be in the top tier of the ACC, get into a good bowl, contend for the CFP. So you have to win games, even, you have a tough schedule, and you don't get dinged if you lose to these tough teams. But if you don't win games, it's kind of a moot point. But I'd still rather them go out and face tough teams and win some of those games and take some losses versus playing cupcakes. That's just, it's the same way with Syracuse basketball. So I like where Fran's coming from, and, we'll see how they do on Saturday. So moving from that, I saw an interesting quote from Anwar Sparrow, and he's a linebacker at Syracuse, and he said, I'm just quoting here, "A lot of people like to say we had an easy schedule last year. I feel like we have a lot to prove to ourselves first, and to others that it wasn't the schedule. We're a good team." And I agree with Sparrow. They should be proving that ultimately they have nothing to prove to anyone but themselves. And yeah, they want to play well, and the coaches, they want to play well. The players want to play well for the coaches, and the program wants to play well, and for the fan base, and to show the world that Syracuse is building this program back up after a lot of mediocrity, and not just under Dino Babers, and he went to a couple bowls and won 10 games one year, but let's be honest, over the last two plus decades, they haven't been super relevant, whether it was in the Big East and now in the ACC. So Fran's trying to build that up. He's got his culture. He won 10 games his first year. And yes, Syracuse definitely had an easier schedule on paper excuse me, this past year. But they still won 10 games, and they beat 3 teams that were ranked when they beat them. UNLV on the road. That was such a fun game. Georgia Tech at home, and then Miami at home in the regular season finale. And then they lost to one ranked team, Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh ended up sliding at the rest of the season. So their losses weren't great. They lost to Pitt, they lost at BC, and then they lost at home to Stanford, which is an awful loss. So the schedule, I agree with Anwar. It was definitely a manageable schedule. It was a favorable schedule. But I mean, the schedule is the schedule, and the players have no control over that. So again, I feel like Syracuse has nothing to prove except to themselves. And yes, again, they want to please the fan base, and I'm part of the fan base, so I get all that. But the schedule is the schedule. They were 10-3 last year. We'll see what they do this year. They were a good team last year. I think they're going to be a good team this year. And I've said it on Syracuse Central. If they don't win 10 games this year or go 9-3 in the regular season and win a bowl game, if they win 7 or even 6, but they play these tough teams close on the road and all that, it's not necessarily a huge step back. And they don't have Kyle McCord. They've got a different quarterback. They've got other different, guys stepping into big roles on both sides of the field. So I don't know. I understand where Sparrow's coming from, and I respect him, but I also think that they should just be focused, just like he said, they should be focused on proving to themselves that they're a good team and then they just show the world what they're made of and kind of leave it at that. I can't wait for this season. It's going to be a really fascinating season. Absolutely. It's going to be fun. All right. So just a little bit of recruiting stuff here, and certainly on Syracuse Central since we debuted in the last few weeks. I've had segments on Calvin Russell because he's Syracuse's first 5-star commit in over 20 years. And it's going to be a big ongoing story till he officially signs with Syracuse, hopefully during the early signing period in December. He's also supposed to play for Syracuse basketball, I've been told. But the media out there and recruiting analysts, they're just doing their job, but it's just like an ongoing story about how Calvin Russell is on flip watch because he's committed to Syracuse. Now, to be fair, there's plenty of other top flight prospects, whether they're 5 stars or high 4 stars, that could be on flip watch this fall. But it's like this ongoing tale. It's like, oh my God, Calvin Russell committed to this lowly Syracuse program. How did he do that? And he's definitely going to flip because he's committed to Syracuse. But if he had committed to his other three finalists were Michigan, Oregon, and Florida State. But if he committed to one of those, oh no, he's not going to flip. No, but it's Syracuse. Come on, Syracuse. I get it. Syracuse has to build up their national presence. It takes time. It was a good first year, and Fran Brown and his staff have done a great job recruiting, whether it was the 2024 transfer cycle when they got Kyle McCord and Diggs and others. And then their 2025 class was solid. The 2026 class at the prep level is looking really good. And then we'll see about 2027 beyond. But, I came across, and let me just read a couple of these things. So why I'm talking about Calvin is he's going to be at the Notre Dame Miami game. I believe it's on Sunday. And they're both ranked in the top 10, and it's at Miami on Sunday. There's some really awesome matchups this weekend. And he said he's going to be at this game because he's supporting his friend Malachi Toney, who is from the Sunshine State in terms of where he played high school ball, and they're good friends. And now he's a freshman in Miami. So he's going to the Miami game. And Calvin Russell plays for Miami Northwestern Senior High School. Miami, like the Miami Hurricanes, is his hometown program. And his mom, I believe, she played for the Hurricanes basketball program. So, I don't see like that there's like all this buzz around Miami flipping Calvin Russell. Am I concerned about Calvin attending a Miami game? Not necessarily. But like here, let me read these two things because this really gets on my nerves. So from one analyst, Syracuse was long considered a top contender for Russell this summer, but not many were taking Fran Brown and the Orange seriously as his July commitment drew nearer. And then he blah, blah, blah. And he shocked plenty by picking the Orange over. It was ultimately between Syracuse and Michigan. And he picked Syracuse. And then he's got this Miami visit, and the analyst said Hurricanes will be a team to watch, blah, blah, blah. And then another analyst I saw, he mentioned the connection with Calvin's mom and et cetera. And it's a hometown team. And I don't know. It's like this other analyst talked about he's a flip target, and the pitch from the Hurricanes is that he'll stay close to home, etc. And again, the connections with his mom and Miami, the school. Um, Calvin Russell has said more than once recently that he's locked into Syracuse. Yeah, he's going to a Miami game because his friend's there and it's his hometown team. If he was, if he was going to a game this weekend where he was like flying across the country, maybe I'd feel a little more concerned. It's his hometown team. I don't know where he lives, like his address, but it can't be that far from Miami's campus. It's not an official visit. He's just going to the damn game. So it just, I don't know. I'll continue to monitor this, but like this notion that people are like, oh my God, how could a 5-star top 25 national prospect, and he's one of the best wide receivers in the country, how could he commit to Syracuse? It's not the old Syracuse. It's Fran Brown's Syracuse. And if I may, Calvin Russell said more than once that even though he reportedly has gotten a good NIL deal at Syracuse, it wasn't about the money, although people might question that. But he said he committed to Syracuse because of his relationship and his family's relationship with Fran Brown. And none of these other programs have Fran Brown. So if Calvin Russell wants to go to the Miami game and support his friend, cool. If Miami, Michigan, Oregon, Florida State, other former suitors want to try and flip Calvin Russell, great, go for it. He says he's locked in. I believe him. I'm tired of analysts putting him on flip watch, and it's going to continue. So I'll monitor it. I think he's locked in. I think he's going to stay locked in. But it is what it is. That's how it is with Syracuse still being an up and coming program. Miami is definitely more of an established program. This is a hometown team for him. Obviously, Michigan, Oregon are big time programs. Florida State sucked last year, but they're still a pretty big program, and they're an in-state program for Calvin. But we'll see how the game goes, and I hope he has a great time. But I'm fully convinced that he's locked in with Fran Brown. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so this is my last edition of the week. This is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central. Please keep telling me what you like and what you don't like. Tell me what you think the score is going to be the game on Saturday. I'll obviously have some episodes beginning of next week covering the game. I'll also getting into some more Syracuse football recruiting, Syracuse basketball recruiting. Tell me what you want me to talk about. Just drop me a line. All comments are good comments. So this is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central saying so long for today. Enjoy the game on Saturday. I appreciate you all. Take care, my friends.